Hello and welcome to Simon on the Sofa. Today I'm with a lovely guy that has recently come across my my waves from seeing some of the videos on Simon on the Sofa. Chris Walton. Hello, Chris.
Hi, mate.
Good to see you. And basically, we're gonna, you know, as you all know, the Sofa's about love, the exploration of love, and how it's showing up in our lives. And I think you're going to really love what some of the angles that Chris is going to bring to this whole journey. I have read one of his books that I'm currently reading, and it is amazing. And hopefully we can touch on some different aspects of love today. So thank you so much, Chris.
Oh, welcome. Thank you. Brilliant, brilliant.
So should we? You know, I said to you when we first spoke about, you know, there's one of the things you said you liked some of the stuff that you'd seen on the Sofa. I don't know whose talk or any talks that you particularly see, but you said you liked some of the things. But you said, I love what you said. You guys, I've got a few thoughts of my own. I'd like to share with you. And it was that just in relation to love, or was it in relation to the transparency, or you know, what was you thinking?
Well, I think a couple of things that first caught my eye when I can't remember which interview it was I was watching first, when I heard you explain about your story and your experience of having this overwhelming loving experience that changed your sort of way of thinking and feeling from that moment on. I thought, well, that's very interesting. You know, it's you know, I've had a similar experience myself in different situation. So I thought it's interesting to hear somebody to say that, and then, you know, you do a little thing on your sofa. I thought it was rather cool. And then what really also caught my eye was this notion of transparency, you know, is being open and honest and transparent in your communication, which is something that I aim to do and be. Yeah. And a good friend of mine actually teaches those types of, that way of communication in the corporate world. So we're very, you know, we chat about this regularly. So when I heard you say that, I thought, well, that's interesting, because, you know, firstly I would like to meet you and just see, well, let's see what a transparent conversation is really like.
Yeah, totally.
You know, with all the bullshit out the way. I'm not sure you can swear on this program.
You can.
All the bullshit out the way, and when push comes to shove, you know, what does being transparent really mean?
Okay.
And for me, there's something there about, all right, so if I'm going to be open and honest with you, and really as present as I can with you and anybody I meet and what have you, you know, how much am I really able to do that?
Yeah.
As opposed to do that for a little bit, but then put my own projections onto you from my own sets of beliefs and programs and patterns and habits that I'm pushing onto you because I haven't really resolved them within myself, which inevitably is not allowing me to be fully transparent. But you're not even sure that you're doing that. You know what I mean? You've got to be quite aware to know that you're doing that.
Totally.
So transparency is definitely the way to go. But you know, I think it's something that is a practice.
Yeah.
You know.
I would. I would agree. Yeah. 100%. Okay, yeah. So shall I say to you where sort of how I see transparency, or how it's shown up for me?
Yeah.
Transparency for me, when I had this overwhelming experience of love, which, you know, you've heard and I've sort of shared with you a little bit about that. Transparency for me was that I very much felt that I was living with limitations through the fact that I couldn't openly share who I was and what I'd experienced and what I'd done in life. Yeah. So, for example, what I also felt was that in love, in what a lot of things that I'd read and heard about and so on, in real love, if you want to call it divine love, absolute love, whatever, it takes you beyond the boundaries of these confines that we have in our society, as, you know, how you should act or not act, or even it also takes you beyond what I started to experience, really beyond anything really matters, because anything that you've ever done isn't who you are. You're having an experience on this planet that is actually, you know, indescribable. It can't be labelled. Nobody fully knows what's going on. We're all exploring in our own right, you know, with our own free will.
Yeah.
And
sometimes,
yeah. Well, we're limited, right, and that. So big time. And what I think for me, transparency created freedom. So I'll give you for example. So for example, when I had this experience, it's like I could communicate to you that I'd taken drugs. So communicating to you before that I'd taken drugs would be something that I would instantly think that you would judge me if I tell you that I've taken drugs, whatever drugs they might be. Even though you might have taken drugs, you might have taken them when you were young or whatever. I wasn't willing to even explore that avenue with you because I would just hold that back. So transparency for me was very much about not holding anything back. Because if you hold anything back, regardless of whether you're even thinking it may offend or not offend somebody else, you're in resistance. And if you're in resistance, you're actually creating within yourself, within your body, within your energy, a conflict. And then I realised from my own exploring and so on, if you're in conflict, you're in protection. If you're in protection, you're in fear. Right. So then I thought, well, there's no way from my overwhelming experience that I had, when you're in that place of love, there's no fear. It doesn't exist. It's not possible. So now I thought, okay, so if I'm in this place of not really being able to communicate, like you said, from a mindful, aware, at least vulnerable place where it's not saying to you, like, for example, I'm enlightened or I'm always aware or I'm always present or I'm always in love. It's about saying, I'm not always in love. Sometimes I'm in fear or I feel anxiety now. Or Chris, the way you said that the other day, it made me feel that you was belittling me, or you might, so I started to practice this in my relationship. And it started first with my partner. And it's been an ongoing process. And over the last 3 years, it's just massively shifted the connection, the communication, the bond, and not even a bond where it's an attached bond, but just a genuine bond. And then what I thought, well, okay, well, and this took like 2 years, and then sort of the last year, I thought this is when the sofa started. So it's like, well, okay, how transparent are you? And if you want to take this to the world, meaning that it would be beautiful, our relationship, if we were coming from that straight place of no, complete transparency, without, like you rightfully said, having to project our reality on somebody else. So actually turning up into a relationship almost as a completely transparent, reflective, open space to explore whatever comes up that we may create together as a friend, as a bond, as a connection. So that's sort of been going on. And then what's materialized from the sofa is like, okay, right, can I say that I've, this come up with in the partner. So can I say that I've cheated on partners? Yes, you can. Can you say you've taken drugs? Yes, you can. Can you say you've been a criminal, you've been a burglar and you've stolen things and you've had your upbringing? Can you share that, how you're truly feeling within yourself when you're in an experience? And it's like, yes, you can. And then you started to realize that actually this is quite liberating. This is actually not from a negative perspective, from a really like, well, I'm coming from an authentic place. This is really liberating. So then it started to explore with, and like you rightfully said, I'm not saying that every communication that I'm having with every single person is completely transparent. Not just from me, but from the other person as well. Because there's resistance, But I think like you, it's now led me into how can I have these beautiful, mindful, present, very open and connected relationships with everyone, and that's where I'm up to with it. Does that sort of give you a description? So then I think that cuts out what you said, i.e. the rubbish, is that you don't have to spend 3 years getting to know somebody. Do you see what I mean?
Absolutely.
But I'll throw this at you. How do you feel that? Because one of the things that I've noticed is that you have to also have respect for the other person who isn't necessarily in a place where they want to be fully transparent. Because transparency is scary.
Absolutely, and very rare. So what would you say in relation to that in your own path for being transparent and playing with it? Because you can be quite overpowering if you start going, well, I've done this, what have you done? Somebody might be a bit like, well, I don't want to I don't know you well enough to share that. So it's a funny one. Well, I think that's exactly it. It's easy to say, we can be transparent, and you and I can have a transparent conversation, but the reality is that most people don't even know what that means, really. The idea, the concept of having a transparent conversation would mean what? And then when they really are able to get themselves to understand, okay, well, can I have a transparent conversation? if this is a new way of thinking and being and behaving, it's very likely that their unconscious fears, resistances, you know, is it safe? Do I deserve it? You know, am I good enough? All those sort of things come up, which, as you say, you know, if I'm sitting next to you and, you know, you've never heard of transparency before, I'm just very open with you. It can be, one, it can be too overwhelming. You know, you're not matching the person on where they are at.
Totally.
And just too much, you know, and in a way it sort of takes away from trying to get a connection and a bond.
Yeah.
So I think transparent conversations are the way forward. And I think if we were all even just a little bit more open with each other and with ourselves, first of all, then things would go along, life would be a little bit more easy, a little easier. Particularly in the corporate world, you know, I think where I do a lot of training, you know, they wax lyrical about transparent conversations, but the reality of it is, due to the systems and hierarchies, and then people have got the fears and doubts about mortgages and bills and this, that, and the other. You know, that goes out the window.
Yeah.
When really all what's going on there is sort of some sort of survival of the fittest. You know, let's make lots of money.
Yeah.
You know, that's the reality of the business. But often that's sort of dumbed down and wrapped up in all sorts of marketing speak to, you know, to sort of pretend.
Yeah, and use the word, because the words become quite like love, which we will touch on, but love, you know, transparency, consciousness, deep communication, these words have become quite fashionable.
Yeah, yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I go, my company's transparent, it's like, that word feels quite good. I like to know that, you know, Chris's company, for example, just using you know, your name as an example, Chris's company is transparent. I feel that I'm getting a really good deal, even though I'm paying a little bit more than I would down the road. I feel that I'm getting a really transparent deal here.
Right.
So it's funny. What's coming to me now is there's almost, as there's layers of love, there's layers of transparency, right? Of what people feel safe to go to.
Right.
And what actually, because I tell you what's come up for me is that you think you're being transparent sometime, but you're in denial.
Yeah.
Or you think you're being transparent sometimes and you're in resistance.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So, and it doesn't mean you're in resistance necessarily of your communication, although it's all connected. You're in resistance of what you're doing in life. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
so sometimes that resistance can actually then create within you a vibration, which I know that you totally get this with your cells and your body. And then actually what you are verbalizing isn't from that space of love.
No, it's not really.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think true transparency comes from when you're in the vibration of love. And if we take love as the idea that you have no fear, you're totally open to what's happening, and you're totally not in it, like you rightfully said, for an end result, for a profit gain mentality.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
Yeah, because if I don't want anything from you, Chris, I can be who I am.
Yeah. But that's, I mean, that right there is it. Yeah, you know, we're gonna talk, and we're having a conversation about anything. I'm gonna be totally open with you because I can, because I've got no agenda. Yeah. And it's not very often we actually have a conversation without an agenda. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Somewhere along the lines, you know, and not that there's anything wrong with that. We need agendas to get things done, but I think as well, the notion of transparency, it's like, we can be transparent, we can be. I think we have to do a bit of inner work on ourselves. I really do. I don't think we can just be transparent. I think we need some sort of inner awakening, inner transformational set of processes or whatever, because we are just not that conscious. Yes. You know, we're just not anywhere near conscious as we think we are.
Yes.
You know, I know I've studied this a long time. I've written about this, of course, but in my own day-to-day awareness, when I'm doing my thing, getting up, tickety-boo, this, that, and the other. You know, the amount of that time that I'm absolutely present in the moment, and particularly if I'm thinking about lots of things, you know, it's not that much, you know, it's not that much as I'm aware of it logically, you know what I mean? I'm still not fully conscious being all the time. Yeah. So without that's even harder then to be transparent, because if I'm not fully present looking at you, with you, right here, right now, not thinking about what I'm going to do after this or this afternoon or all that, then it's hard to you know, be that real grounded self. And I think you're right. I think the way to the ideal way, the optimum way to be able to be those transparent ways of being and living is to get into that heart space, into that loving space. But again, you know, you've got to slow down to do that. You know, you've really got to have some sort of reason.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, and you've got to have you're talking about the inner work, which is such a true factor. It's a good point to bring up actually, is that I haven't just gone from this space to that space. The last 3 years has been, I mean, I've always been doing inner work, if you want to call it inner work. The last 3 years has been really more extensive inner work, and that's been from, like you say about calming down, but that's definitely from the way that I'm acting, the food that I'm eating, right, which has changed the way that I can be calm and can channel my energy. Yoga, I go to the gym anyway, but yoga is a big thing in just connecting to the body, feeling the body, you know, connecting to where you're tight and not, you know, and then obviously that's led to meeting different people, but that's led to meditation, which is something I dabbled in, but it wasn't really something that I really embodied. And then really, you know, meditation as well, I think sometimes people lose, but that's just about, like you said, just coming to conscious presence, which is, I'm sitting here, I can feel the breathing going on in my body, I can feel the circulation of my body, I can hear everything around me, and that just sort of slows you down.
Yeah, right.
And I know you can probably touch a bit something. It does something to the brain waves as well, right?
Right, absolutely.
So it takes us into, what state does that take us into when we're in meditation?
Well, predominantly like an alpha theta state. You know, like how we would be right now is like more of a beta wave. If you're measuring it, wide awake, active, and then as you slow down, you know, you drop into that alpha state, which is that like nice sort of daydreamy place. Then lower alpha, then into that theta state, which is, you know, much more deeper, slower brain waves, and that's when you get more, you know, more balance between the hemispheres, and you can just, you know, the whole system relaxes. You get your nervous system relaxes, and that's why it's a nice place.
Yeah, and then at that place as well, you're getting a more of a connection to the heart, right? If you want to go down that route of being more aware of that particular, you know, place, but definitely there's, you know, the heart's much more relaxed. The heart has an even, slow rhythm. You know, when you're a bit more anxious and tense, it's a bit more jagged. The heart rhythm's different, and the heart and the brain connect and talk to each other all the time. You know, so there's a massive connection between those two organs. So I think so that's been very much a shift for me. And then also, you might have heard this, I think you might have in the corporate world, but very much mindfulness has been coming up for me. You know, is that something you've teach a little as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the mindfulness is that something come to me recently from some people that I met, which is really lovely, and you know, they've been on their own journey, and they do some training. One does Aikido and stuff, and they very much come from a mindful space. And that mindful space is all about how I do anything is how I do everything. Which I know somebody said that's very much comes up in a lot of psychology and also you know, coaching work. But just those little words, how I do anything is how I do everything, really shifts, you know, it brings in a tool or a way of, in your daily routine, your daily life, well, okay, how I do anything is how I do everything. The reason why that slows you down a little is because, well, okay, how I wash up, how I brush my teeth, how I get ready to go out, how, you know, it changes the way, and I'm quite a high octane rushing around sort of guy, you know, and I have been for years, you know, high energy, you know, 100 miles and running. I'm probably in gamma state all the time, right? So you know, it's very much brought a balance to me. So I'm still got a lot of energy, which I love. I love having a lot of energy, you know, it's a beautiful place to be. But the mindfulness and the meditation has brought me, okay, how can I channel that and just be a little bit more present? And I'm not present all the time, no way. You know, I would love to be, but you know, life, if you want to call it life, but things get in the way, society gets in the way. Sometimes, my choice, but it does. So that mindfulness has been very much a way to, or one of the tools, and maybe you can share some other tools with me, because I know there's a beautiful exercise in your book, which is about, which is funny enough what meditation is as well, but being conscious of your breath and how many times it's you're taking an inhalation and exhalation during even a busy activity. And that's really come up for me now. So you know, throughout the day, I'm very much thinking, okay, let me just come in, let me get back with the breath. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Do you do that?
Yeah, as much as I remember to do it.
Yeah.
You know.
So there's many tools, isn't there?
Yeah.
And maybe you know a few others, but I mean, you know, you've got the mindfulness, the presence, you've got the meditation, you've got the way you talk, the way you do everything. Do you see what I mean? So you do actually, you're right, you have to change actually, you have to change your whole life really.
Well, the thing is also is, well, you're right, but the thing is, the other thing is, like, people like might go, well, like, I mean, some of the people that watch your Simon on the Sofa show are probably already converted, you know, you're preaching to the converted,
right, exactly.
which is cool, but inevitably, you know, I'm assuming, you know, you want to get your message out, and the way that you, you know, communicate your message to a wider audience.
100%. Yeah.
So it comes back to me is the question is, well, why? Why, you know, why that if I were married and had 2 kids and were working long hours, tubes, this, that, and the other, you know, what's my benefit to becoming more mindful? What's my benefit to spending some time in my mad, fast-paced life? You know what this city's like? It's drive, success, succeed, bam, 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 bam. What's the benefit to me to slowing down? Slowing down? What do you mean? If I slow down, I'm not going to be able to do everything I need to do. You know. So there's got to be a reason. And I think that reason, like anything, any form of motivation, there's any pain or pleasure. You know, the carrot or the stick. It's the same for all of us. So I think the reason people choose to move towards these more heart-based places to come from, or more present, or more mindful, whatever, I guess, whatever words, more conscious way of living maybe, is you know, they've either got themselves into such a state physically, their bodies, their minds, they're stressed, you know, the systems start to break down a little bit, there's illnesses, some diseases and all that sort of thing, where you all of a sudden have to take a look at yourself and go, hang on a minute, what have I been doing the last X amount of years now, these habits and patterns that I'm doing that are not really helping me, you know? I haven't got as much energy or vitality, I'm not connecting with my partner as well, my kids or whatever. And then there's some sort of motivation there to actually make some change. I guess the other way around, that would be moving away from the pain, if you like, but then there's something about moving towards the pleasure, you know. What's the reason here? What's the benefit of me living more mindful life? You know, what's the benefit of me aiming to love myself more so that I can love others more? What's the benefit? You know, what am I going to really get? And I think without one of those two leverages, motivation, why the hell would people do it? You know, I mean, I don't know whether it's Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. It might be the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. It might be another book. And I remember reading in there, and I don't know the name of the monk, but he's one of those sounding names like Rinpoche or one of those that I always struggle with saying. But one of these profound monk masters, and he's doing this lecture. And so there's all these people in the room, and so he starts his lecture, you know, there's hundreds of people in there, and he says something like, so, okay, just before we start, I want to know who's actually on the spiritual path right now, who's actually doing a set of spiritual practices, who's started to spiritually awaken, you know. And so the certain amount of the room put the hand up, a certain amount of the room don't. And he says, well, my advice to you, if you haven't started yet, I'd leave the room. Don't bother starting. Don't start. I've heard this because it's hard work. But if you've started, I'm afraid you've got to stop. You've got to finish. You've got to finish it. You know what I mean? You can't stop. You know, you can't just get off. And when I read that, I thought, do you know what? I know exactly what you mean. You know, numerous times when I've thought to myself, gee, why did I start all this shit? You know, I was far better off when I was totally unconscious. You know what I mean?
It's true. Because ignorance is bliss.
Right? Because it's not, you know, it's not. In my experience, I don't find it easy all the time. But saying that, you know, I've had this conversation with several friends, and they've said, well, yeah, but would you go back to being unconscious? I said, no, you can't. You know, you can't. Even if you you really wanted to. It's like, you know, what's his name, Neo in the Matrix, and they pull him out of the Matrix, you know what I mean? At the moment he freaks out, but like, actually, once you realise, actually then you get much more awareness about who you are, what you can do, what really is going on. Then I think there's a lot of motivation.
That's magical, right?
That's
beautiful. It's for me is like, it's very difficult to explain or articulate the feeling that you have within when you whether you call it a spiritual path, whether you call it connection to love, whether you call it connection to this experience that we are having in an aware state.
Yeah.
For me, you know, if you take, for example, when I was unconscious, okay, I was having some nice experiences. You know, maybe, you know, I'd still go on holiday and I'd have a nice experience on holiday, but something shifted for me. So now I'm in this more of an aware state. The enjoyment is the exploration of that unknown, and then delving into that unknown and realizing that you are part of something so huge and so vast and so magical, but also you do have an effect on that.
Right.
And this is where it gets really exciting for me. And this is like, it's funny you said about what's the bonus. Well, I tell you, the bonus is that if everybody was fundamentally in a vibration of love, the world as you see it would not be as it is,
right?
Because the world as you see it is coming from my understanding now, very much from a foundation of protection, fear, anxiety, and so on.
Yeah.
Now, if you had a choice, or if anybody listening to this had a choice, whether you would choose the sensations of love or the sensations of fear, pretty much everybody, who I also believe that everybody's seeking love anyway,
sure,
right?
Sure.
So they would choose love. Yet 90% of our species choose fear every day, every single day.
Survival mode.
Survival mode, protection, anxiety, dysfunctional relationships, fear, self-doubt, self-sabotage, blockages, resistance. You know, the list is, you know, as you know, endless.
Yeah.
So for me as well, coming back to the question is that, what is the benefit? And I know you answered it beautifully, but also the benefit is that it's just that pure feeling of freedom, that you are actually in that state of free will, and also you are actually having an effect on your whole reality through your choices.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
and I mean, even like again, the stuff you've brought to my journey, which you know I thank you for, is that, and Bruce Lipton as well, because it's just the two people that have brought a really different angle to my perspective of reality. Is very much when you start to see that because awareness opens up that, oh, there's an electromagnetic field that's going maybe 15 feet or more outside of my body. It's like, so I have the awareness that my electromagnetic field is going out there, it's been tested, it's been registered, it's been monitored, and that if I have feelings of love, I not only affect my electromagnetic field, but I affect the person that I meet, or the person in the shop, or the experience I have. And then if I'm also vibrating in that space, you know, whether it be in my loving relationships or not, I'm feeling that I'm really experiencing that experience, and I can actually then receive that experience. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So people talk about they want to get so much, and they want to receive so much, and they want to do so much. They want to have the £100,000, they want to have the £1 million, they want to have the cars, the great experiences, and so on. Well, a lot of the time people are having those, but not experiencing them. Experiencing them. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
because at the point that they're there, they want to be either somewhere else in the future, or they're still thinking about or attached to their past.
Yes.
So actually, the experiences that they're having, that they think that they are actually having a fulfilled experience, and you said as well that a lot of the people that might watch this are the converted. A lot of the people watching these talks are converted on the path. But I don't know if anybody is really fully converted. Do you see what I mean?
Converted
meaning that nobody
fully liberated.
Yeah, fully liberated. Because if there was a mass amount of liberation going on at the moment, you would see that, as you rightfully said, through the cells, what happens in the cells happens on the exterior. And I'm not saying it's not coming, but I think that the story that we're in at the moment is very much still a story of lack, fear, protection, and so on. And I mean, even these conversations are changing that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
They really are. But I mean, whether anybody is fully enlightened, fully awake, fully mindful, fully present at the moment, I'm not sure. And not in my experience, and not anybody that I've met. And even, I'm going to not point the finger here, but even the people that are out there that we're putting on a pedestal going, oh, I've got to meditate for 15 years in a cave before I'm ever going to be aware. Well, yeah, but again, there's levels of awareness. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's really it's just fun. It's fun to explore it. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I explored a place of fear. Now I'm exploring a place of love. And if somebody wants to make that choice, which is their choice, then I think there's a lot of benefits. Yeah. You know, and that sort of brings me to, should we talk about the whole, how the heart responds to, you know, no, to how our reality responds to our heart energy. Do you want to talk about that? Because that sort of explains to you what I said in the kitchen, which was, you know, when I had that overwhelming experience, something happened. Right? Maybe you can tell me what happened, or an idea of what happened.
Well, I think what's really good these days is, you know, with the advancement of science and technology, it's so rapid, you know, with the latest ways we can, you know, do brain scans and what have you, and really get down to the, just, you know, to really small little areas, just a couple of neurons, you know, which we never used to be able to do, have that technology only a few years ago, and measuring heart rhythms and the connection between the heart and the brain. So from a sort of science point of view, which is why I sort of, you know, I like to have a sort of scientific framework around it, then no matter who you're speaking to, it's got some credibility other than more like just a purely spiritual connotation or that sort of thing. So I think the understanding the heart field, just having an awareness of the heart field, and that, you know, the brain obviously is electrical, sending electrical impulses all the time, and so there's a measurement of electricity there, and with the electricity there's a magnetic field, so we can measure the magnetic field, and the heart also. The heart's the most powerful, you know, producer of this electrical and electromagnetic field in the whole body, much more so than the brain. And so, and one of the very cool things with the heart is that when we are, that the heart has a direct connection to the frontal lobes of the brain, the most powerful, active, most evolved, the CEO of the brain, you know, the part of the brain that can stop you reacting in all these, you know, old patterns and ways and habitual things if you're aware enough, you know. So it has a direct connection with that. So what we can see is that when we are in those, as you said, when we're in those loving states, those gracious states, those states of joy and caring and just connection, but very open-hearted states, that shunts all the blood away from the lower regions of the brain and really pushes it and all the activity into these frontal areas, which makes us more present, more awake, more useful, more productive, more, you know, alive, more vibrant. But that's all coming through the heart, you know. And if we start to have those anxious, stress-based, frustrated emotions that we get a little bit, you know, on edge, then the opposite happens, you know, we get a different sort of heart rhythm which sends the blood then to the back of the brain ready in case we need to do that fight-flight response. But, so it's all through the heart's, you know, sending all this information up and receiving the information from the brain, but the heart sends more signals to the brain than the brain does to the heart, you know, it's got a huge, huge amount of impact on the way that we process information in the world. And as you said, what's very interesting and also very cool, I think, is that that electromagnetic frequency that's literally coming off the heart, we are broadcasting out. I mean, we can measure it up to 15 feet, but the people that, you know, the researchers in this area, they say that it's probably much more than that. It's just that the level of our measuring equipment at the moment is not accurate enough to go any further. But so we know that if you're feeling really, really loving, that is literally, in a very literal, solid sense, being broadcasted out on your field to a certain radius, you know. And if you're stressed and anxious and angry, that's also being broadcast out. And I think is why when we go into a building or we meet somebody, you're immersed in the field of that person, way beyond the thought process of like, what's this dude all about? You know, is he kosher? Is he safe? You know it in your body. Your gut in your heart tell you, because we're immersed in each other's field. And like when you go into sacred places, you know, you got that already, that feel that this place is sacred. Or if you go into a place and there's like just been an argument before you went in there, you can feel it. You know, and everybody's had that experience. It's very natural for us to experience that. It's only if we're shut down and we forgot all that, you know. So I think the science today is showing us actually, in every way, shape, form, whether it be the individual person from a health perspective, mentally, physically and emotionally and spiritually, entering those heart states, those warm, open, gracious, loving states are the most sane, logical, productive way to live.
Yeah.
But what I think happens is we're, as we said at the start, we're so conditioned to reactions and autopilot, and most of what we do is unconscious, that you know, that we're not aware enough to take that in. But focusing on those feelings, understanding, you know, that it's the healthiest place to be, it's the most productive place to be, you know, for everything that you possibly do. It makes total sense to live that way, beyond all the poetry about the heart and the love about the heart. Beyond that, all that stuff. It just makes total sense physiologically, you know, and psychologically to live that way, which you know, something we all need to practice, I think.
And it feels good.
It feels great.
Right? That's the key thing. It's like everybody, no matter what, you know, again, it's not about spiritual path or anything. Everybody wants to feel good.
Yeah.
Why, I mean, don't matter who you meet.
Yeah.
It's like, what you're doing? How are you today?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm having a bad day. Okay, would you like to feel good? I'd love to feel good.
Yeah.
What would make you feel good? Well, I don't know, a holiday, a girlfriend, some money, whatever, you know, maybe hanging out, you know, I would just want to feel good.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and so many people I meet, I don't know about yourself with the people that come your way, but they don't feel good.
No.
They're not happy.
No, not at all.
They're just, I mean, it's not even to even give this life or perpetuate it, but if you ask people if they're happy and they say yeah, they're normally basing it, there's a lot of denial to that. There's a bed of negativity under that. You know, like, I'm not happy with my job, maybe the partner, you know, the financial income, maybe society, maybe the fact that, you know, looking globally, maybe they're not happy with the way the state of the world is, the fact that we've got crises going on in the financial system, or we've got crises going on in, you know, the ecological system, and as you know, across the board. But I think, I don't know what you feel to this, but I feel very much, until you do this inner work, this is just my view on it, you know, until you do the inner work, or you become more aware, more peaceful, more loving, more caring, and you're actually vibrating in that state, you then make choices from that state rather than the protection state. And then that registers and generates out to this whole planet, yeah? And then, you know, people go, you know, I don't make it, you know, I can't really affect the planet, you know. That's bloody BP had put the oil in the water, or, you know what I mean, whatever it is. How am I going to have an effect on poverty? People have been trying to change poverty for years, Si. And what I'm saying is that there's a new way. There is a new way to do things, and it's science is bringing it forward, spiritualism, we are bringing it forward. Forget labelling it. The collective shift in humanity is bringing something forward. And that forward is that people are either waking up because they're seeing how dysfunctional things are, like you said, they get into that brink point, and they're going, man, something's got to change in my own life, you know, because this isn't working. And then I think globally we're seeing that, where it's like, how can we be creating these atrocities? And also, what role do I play in that? And I think through that awareness, which is definitely opening up, you know, whether or not it happens in 5 years, 10 years or whatever, there's just a shift for me. And maybe it's just because I'm on this path. Maybe people go, oh, it's just because you're doing what you're doing, and, you know, maybe that's the case. But I can see that if we're having an effect from the inner to the outer, then you will start to see new stories being told, which we're seeing, and then these new stories are going to create new structures, and these new structures are going to create new systems, and these new systems are going to create a new vibration and a new environment and a new society. Can you see that?
Yeah, absolutely.
How that can really, and I think that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Purely for that. You know, one, to live it because it's enjoyable, and two, that if that, even if that theory works, then great. Right. And if it doesn't, well, I'm still having a good time.
It was good while we tried it.
Do you sort of see that?
Yeah, I do. I think, again, you know, I have a sort of science frame around it, so that I know myself, other than my subjective experience, I haven't lost the plot, and, you know, I've gone off with the fairies. And there's a lot of, you know, it's easy to do that, you know what I mean? So I think, again, that understanding that we are all connected in a very literal sense, you know, in the sort of sciences, the consciousness realms, you know, the term they give it is not, you know, non-locality or entanglement, you know, that at that level of energy and information, we are all connected, we are all entangled, so inevitably it's a bit hard to sort of make such a huge leap to this, well, it is for me anyway, but inevitably it's like, you know, what we do to one we do to another. Well, you know, it's a huge leap, but if you just think, well, okay, we're all connected, what's a better way for me to live my life so that I am healthy, balanced, and of some use to add some value back into the system, the society that I live in.
Yeah.
And that's much better coming from a, you know, a loving space, a coherent space, a balanced space, rather than, you know, being more anxious and frustrated every day, which inevitably, if you keep doing that day in, day out, you've got to ask yourself why. You know, you've got to ask yourself why. What is it about the anxiety, the frustration, the anger, the blah blah blah, that you keep doing day in, day out? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
And of course, it's not obviously not a conscious choice. If you're doing it consciously, you are actually mad.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And, but inevitably, there's an addiction there. You know, there's an addiction to the emotional aspects of some of those energies. You know, if you're angry and frustrated, and somebody says stop being angry, you're like, you know, the addiction's there. So that has to be broken. You have to stop that and move more back into those loving spaces. And that takes work. You know, I'd like to say you could just do it at the drop of a hat, but you know, the reality is you just. But it ain't that much work. You know, you just it's a choice.
Right, and that's the work you're doing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're talking about, that's great. So we're talking about, okay, subconscious mind now. Yeah, should we delve there?
Sure.
You feel that? Yeah, sort of like we're going that way. Yeah.
Get into that. Yeah.
So subconscious mind.
Yeah.
And the mind now being. I thought the mind for a long time was in the head.
Yeah, most people do.
Did you ever have that?
Of course.
I don't know why. It's a brain thing.
Old
programming, whatever.
Yeah, most people still do.
Yeah, most people still do. So now, if we take the idea that the mind is creating our reality, and the mind's our whole body.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
Right? So, and every single cell, from the trillions of cells we've got in our body, each cell has its own backbone, life. You know what I mean? The whole thing, everything that's going on within us is going on within the cell.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, share with like for me the realization that we are actually our subconscious beliefs. I think people hear that a lot.
Yeah.
But when you embody that, it's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I think, the most important thing to think, and you have to slow down to get your head around it. It's not that it's a big thing, but you still have to slow down. Is the majority of what we all do, you know. The majority of what we think, the majority of what we feel, the responses we have to the environment, friends, etc., the majority of the actions that we take based on how we feel and what thoughts we are, it's an unconscious process. It's a subconscious, unconscious, same thing for me. You know, we're not really aware of it. We're not consciously choosing to be angry or frustrated. We're not consciously choosing to be stressed. You know, that you obviously wouldn't do that. You know, if you were consciously choosing how you felt, then you'd feel good all the time. You'd have a good day, you know. Yeah. And you would be if you were going to choose something. You think, well, actually, the best state I've ever felt is deep, deep love. So I think I'll choose that. Yeah. But you can't. Yeah. You can't do it because majority of what's driving the whole system is that those unconscious processes that you've learned throughout your life to survive and get through and put your personality on and everything. So it's challenging then to to get into that love space without starting to reprogram yourself at that unconscious level, so that you don't have any conflict. So what your conscious goals are, what you want to do consciously, is then supported by the unconscious or your subconscious, which is just all that deeper programming.
Yeah.
And when you can align that and bring that together, then there's less stress in the physical body, there's less stress signals literally, and when there's less stress signals, of course, you can be more loving, It's a little loop there. And so doing that work is it's essential, really. Otherwise, you just keep playing and playing and playing the same old scripts, time and time again. And even, as Bruce Lipton says, and it's absolutely true. I mean, I've been seeing clients for a long, long time. Even becoming aware, okay, well, the reason I play this trait and this way of being is because my parents got divorced and this. You say, okay, cool, but that trait's still rolling. It's just because I know why and how, it doesn't stop it. And I've seen lots of people like that. So you have to change those programs, which is with the technology again we have today is and the techniques and whatever is very effective and very quick compared to years and years ago. and then you're you know, you're in a good place. Your subconscious is updated, just like updating your computer, so that when you press the icon on your screen, the right program comes up. That's the program you want to play out into your life, you know. And I think that's essential. It's absolutely essential.
Yeah. So how would once we find that? So we go in, we do a series of tests, right, which we call muscle tests now, right?
Yeah. If you do, if you're using a muscle test.
Is that one way? Is that just one way?
Yeah, I mean, for me, muscle testing, like kinesiology type approaches, is very good, because you are getting, if you know what you're doing, you're getting a direct feedback with the unconscious system, the autonomic nervous system, the unconscious parts of everybody. So you're able to see that through the body. So there's no guesswork, there's no interpretation, there's no this means this. Somebody's not telling you what it means. Your body's telling you everything. And like you say, if you come back to what you said at the start, if you just remember that your mind is in every cell of the body. Every cell you have is the whole mind in action. It's not just the activity of the brain. Obviously, it is going through the brain, but the whole being is one mind. Then that makes much more sense, that your body gives you all this information. And what I was going to mention earlier is, like that heart-brain connection that we mentioned, the guy that wrote the foreword for my book is a brain surgeon. He's an amazing man, professor of neurosurgery. He's been a brain surgeon for 25 years. He came on a couple of my courses, amazing guy. And he was telling me, not only is the heart and brain connected, but and literally in the heart we have 40,000 neurons, 40,000 brain cells in the heart, and they call it, you know, a brain within the heart. But he says we have over 100,000 brain cells around the gut in what's called the enteric nervous system. So that gut response, that everybody knows what a gut feels like, and everybody's gone against the gut feel and lost out somewhere. It's so subtle that we've sort of lost it a bit in the West because we're all busy. But that gut feel, and then we've got the heart wisdom, and then we've got the logic. You know, that's all the mind. But if you just think it's just head and logic, you're missing so much. The body's giving you information all the time, and when you tune into that and enhance your awareness about that, then you can change massively. You know, which is cool.
That's magical.
Because
then you can start to go into the levels of, people talk about manifestation and also just, you know, like you say, because you've got your gut communicating, your heart communicating, you're in tune with that. So like you said, then you're actually playing, because then if you follow those and you've reprogrammed your limiting beliefs, your subconscious beliefs, or you're aware of them at least, so you know what are playing out, you can actually start to, and this comes to what we said about going more, slowing down and being more quiet and being more calm. What's coming to me now is that then you can actually create your reality from that space, which isn't such a high-powered place, which isn't such a, you know, profit gain, I've got to have all this stuff, but actually it might change. Oh, well, it could change anything, but it might change the way you choose. It might completely change where you're living, you know, because you're starting to tune into something completely different, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not just like your, you know, these subconscious programs.
Exactly.
And also what comes to me is that you've probably heard everyone says change your habits. For example, if you do something for 21 days, you heard this one, haven't you?
It's a myth though,
It's a myth, If you do something for 21 days or 30 days, you do change your habits, which do start to access from a conscious level, your subconscious. So why do you feel that's a myth?
Well, the 21-day thing came out of a guy called Maxwell Maltz, who was the guy that wrote a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. I hope I've said his name right. I think I have. And he was a plastic surgeon. And so the original 21-day thing came out of when he was doing surgery on people's faces. So he'd like say you'd have a nose surgery or put their ears right or whatever they do, you know. He would notice that there was a theme that people wouldn't be happy with their new appearance till after about 21 days. It took him about 21 days of getting used to themselves in the mirror to say, actually, I like myself now. So that was then a theme that got extrapolated by lots of like motivational speakers and thinking, oh, actually it takes you 21 days to change your habit. Well, that's where it came from. It's you know, it's a big leap. It's a big leap. You know, I mean, sometimes habits do take a long time to change. Sometimes you can change a habit in a heartbeat, depending on how motivated you are and the reasons why and the energy that you have and how healthy you are and the way you're going to do it. So, you know, I wouldn't, you know, the 21-day thing is, you know, that's where it comes from, and it's not like a set in stone thing, you know.
That's a good point.
But I think coming back to what you were saying there, I think what inevitably happens is that when you are tuned into your gut and you follow that gut response, you know, you just, even if you had a decision to make, in fact, the next decision you have that's an important decision, if you just go to yourself, right, okay, what does my gut say? Don't think about it. What does my gut say? And a gut feel about this decision, what am I feeling? And just stay with the gut. And then if you just go, and it's good actually to put your hand on it, you know, if then you just put your hand on your heart and say, okay, from the wisdom center, you know, the gut is instinct, it's survival, it's primal, you know what I mean? It's that instant, am I safe? What's my instinctual gut feel here? The heart, you know, what's my wisdom center? What's that mass awareness of wisdom going to tell me about that? So if I was coming from a heart-centered place now, how would I make this decision? And then you go, okay, now I've got those two bits. Now logically, what's my best step forward here? What's my best decision? And if you put all those three together, that's a much wiser place to live your life than just, you know, quick.
And takes a little bit longer, so you don't even have to give somebody a decision straight away. So even if somebody asks you, you could just say, you know what, I'm going to take that on board and I'll come back to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, okay, you might at some point be, you know, completely in tune with it and just go instantly, maybe, you know, but I'm feeling that from that, it's a great way of slowing down again. It's another tool to go, you know what, I'm not going to make a decision on this. You know, whatever it is. But I will get back to you in an hour if you need it quickly, and maybe a day or so if you don't. You know, and that's a really wise thing to
well, wisdom,
wise thing to do.
Definitely.
Really wise thing to do. I suppose one of the things coming up for me is, at the moment, this just come to me a minute ago, I feel it in my gut, feel it in my heart, feel it in my head, right? Is that me and you are still in a program, right? We're still in a belief system of some kind. So I believe that I had that experience of love, and now it's taken me on this journey. So it's just my belief system, right? And you believe, you know, you've gone down your path and had your experiences, and so I don't know if because you said about the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, so you've sort of read some of the, you know, the spiritual, or the, you know, the Eastern spiritual beliefs, for example. Krishnamurti is one of the people that I read a lot of his stuff, and he talks about beyond mind. So now we're talking about there's a level that is beyond even the mind. Now, if the mind is your whole body, and one of the things that keeps coming up to me is that when there's a knowingness, and I don't know if you have this, Chris, but when there's a knowingness, I just get like a sensation. Some people have labelled it again, it's a Kundalini expression. It's like a euphoric feeling that just goes right up my spine, comes up into the back of the head, and my actual hairs go a little bit on end. Yeah, and I've labelled that as a knowingness, truth. Something that is actually, you can't really articulate, although I'm trying, but you can't really articulate, but it just feels right. And it's funny you say that, but you feel it here as well. So if I'm feeling that, and it's a knowingness to some form of truth, are we ever able to get completely out of the mind? So if we talk about beyond the mind, isn't that still mind? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Just to throw that in there. And I mean, even if we now, and this is making people laugh and I watch it. This is what blows my mind, is that now, even as we try to articulate it, we're also trying to articulate that place with mind. Right? Do you see where I'm going? So I get fried with that.
I know what you mean. I've been fried about that many times. Well, for me, this is how I. Let's say make peace with that. Let's say make peace with it. You know, it's obvious that we have a mind, an individual mind. It's obvious that we're here now. We're on a sofa. We're talking. We're in London. We're doing the do.
Feel you know,
we're pretty real. You know, to say that it's an illusion, like some things that we hear. You know, at the grandest level. Yeah, okay, but that's not that useful, because if either of us jump out the window, it ain't going to be too healthy, right? So we're here, we have an individual mind, we are, as spiritual beings as we are biological creatures that are on a journey, and probably in 50 years' time, maybe neither of us are going to be alive in this form, right? So, but at the same time, so what we said earlier about the heart is broadcasting outside of the body, but we do the same with the head. So now we can measure the brain waves by putting, like I was telling you earlier, putting the electrode sensors on the brain, on the scalp, but we can also measure the electromagnetic activity off the scalp. So you can sit in a machine and there's nothing touching you, and it's measuring the information that's coming out of your skull. So in a sort of very real way, you know, we are broadcasting our thoughts and our feelings all the time, 24/7, when we're awake or asleep, out into the environment in a very literal way. Just like radio waves come on in, you tune it and you got your music, we are doing that all the time. So you go, okay, cool. So then we have this notion, like, you know, Jung said many years ago and everything, that we have this collective mind, which we do. As far as I'm aware, there's definitely, you know, a collective mind that you can tap into, a collective thought forms.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, you know, you can, depending on where you want to take it, you know, you can go to the, okay, then consciousness itself is the ground of all being. You know what I mean? That everything comes from consciousness through us to have a physical expression and a personal mind, you know. So, whilst you can get beyond individual and collective mind into states of pure awareness, I don't see many people living like that walking around this town.
No.
I think you've got to come back into the physical body, else. I mean, like, Bruce Lipton is, as you know, I'm a huge fan of Bruce. I think his work's amazing. But in one of his DVDs, and you probably seen it, where when he says something like, so if that's true, you know, why come into this physical body? Why be here? Why have this experience?
Yeah.
And then he says, and my cells told me why that is. And he said, if I was just a spirit, if I was just consciousness, if I was just beyond mind, what would chocolate taste like? What would a sunset look like? What would falling in love feel like?
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't be able to have that experience.
Yeah.
So that's why we have the personal mind and the sensation of the body to enjoy the show.
Amazing. So actually it's consciousness experiencing itself in order to, in some way, express itself as well. And that's magic. That's magical as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's totally magical, because then when you, and again, if you're open to going to that space, which is, you know, without forcing to get there. So it's not about sitting in meditation going, I've got to get out there into the consciousness. Because fundamentally, you are consciousness.
Yeah, right.
So even actually, when we're talking about beyond mind, it's knowing that the mind is consciousness. So if the mind is consciousness and everything that is come from that source, if you want to call it consciousness, some are calling it divine, God, whatever, you know, whatever you want to label it as, if you actually just be aware with that, of that, it's not about then going, this life isn't great. It's about just actually, you're right what you said about how you make peace with it. It's actually quite humbling, isn't it? Because one of the things that has come up for me more and more is that the more you know, the less you understand. So the more we keep trying to work out how we are here or why we're here or what created us, we're often missing the ability to just live in this humbleness and have a really magical experience.
Absolutely.
You know, free from actually death, free from fear. And if you take death and fear out of the equation as well, is because it's all part of this conscious experience, that actually changes again the whole of society based on, you know, what we're creating from that place of fear. Do you see what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that's really humbling.
Yeah.
You know?
I think you absolutely hit the nail on the head as well. You know, if you're constantly striving, you know what I mean? You're constantly striving for these states or ways of being, you know, this oneness, this, you know, this place, this magical nirvanic place.
Yeah.
You're constantly striving for that. I think you absolutely hit the nail on the head. You are missing the very fact that you're here right now. You're able to sense, feel, smell, taste, touch, all these things that when you really just stop and think, holy shit, you know, I'm on a spinning rock going a million miles an hour, whatever, through the middle of nowhere, having this experience. And I you know, that is a brilliant, very beautiful thing when you really get it, you know what I mean? When you really get it and have a little look up at night and look at the moon and
and the stars.
You're like, holy shit, you know.
I'm in this.
You know, this is real, and
this is real, and
one day I'm going to die. It's going to be all over,
and that,
as a physical body.
Yeah, but if you're in that space and you experience that if you want to call that nirvana, because you're actually aware of this experience, you're actually not fearing death.
No.
Because when it comes to dying, you actually enjoyed, absorbed, loved, shared, kissed, doing all the things you just beautifully described in your experience. Yeah. So you can be on your deathbed and go, you know what, Chris, see you later. Yeah. I've had a good time.
See you next time.
See you next time. You know, enjoy your experience.
Yeah. Plus, I think there's grander levels of human development. You know, you do. You know, if you get to that understanding, and I want to come back to a quote in a minute because it's understanding of, okay, well, if the real you and the real me and the real everybody is not just Simon through that and Chris through this. If the real me is consciousness,
yes.
you know, true real self is consciousness. That's where I come from. That's really what I am, and I'm having an experience, as you said, consciousness experiencing itself. If you really get that, you know what I mean, then there's nothing to worry about.
There's nothing to worry about, and that is it. What's the quote? What quote have you got?
Well, the quote is this. The quote, again, it comes from that book, Tibetan and Living and Dying, and it's important because it sort of links us back to what we were saying at the start. And he says in that book, he says, don't mistake understanding for realization, but don't mistake realization for liberation. And when I read that, I thought, Jesus, I know exactly what you mean. Like, so we can understand that, you know, we can sit and chat and people listening and go, yeah, I got that whole consciousness thing. Consciousness is the ground of all being. That's where I come from and I'm experiencing myself. I've got it. You know, I understand that. And then you walk around the corner and somebody pisses you off and you're angry again. You know what I mean? Like, well, all right, that's, you know, but then to be realised, a realised being, to fully realise that, that's much more than just understanding it.
Totally.
But then, when I read that quote, I thought, absolutely, man, I've got that. But even a fully realised, it doesn't mean to say you're fully liberated.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not liberated from all your fears and your aversions and your attachments. And I think that takes practice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It takes a bit of work. And I honestly think what your ideas of getting your message out in this show is wonderful, because inevitably, the only way to do it is to get more into a loving, caring space with self and others. That's inevitably the only way.
Yeah.
You know, you need some practices to help you get there, but that's inevitably where you end up.
Yeah, and that shift that we're moving in, that foot part of evolution is in process. Whether I die tomorrow or not, it's in process.
Right, yeah,
do you see what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think that because you know everything that's changed, even science and the biology, belief in science, everything that's changed is going to change more, because change is
quicker.
Continuous.
Yeah, and quicker. Yeah.
So I feel that's an amazing place to end.
Awesome.
How do you feel?
I feel great. I mean, we could keep going for hours. You know what I mean? But I think it's brilliant. I mean, I love to have conversations about this stuff, and you know, makes me think and realise, and again, just gives me those little moments of reflection to go, hang on, you know, how real am I being right now? You know what I mean? Am I bullshitting? Am I really being how I actually am as a person? You know what I mean? And we all need little reminders and a bit of practice, and be a bit more relaxed with ourselves and live it and enjoy the show. Absolutely live it. Live it.
And I got the same. So you know, I hope you felt that was as transparent.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you know, I'm sure we're going to be even more transparent with each other over, you know, as our journey continues.
Right.
For me, this is part of, and for the people watching, just to say, this is very much part of me living it. This is it. You know, having this conversation with Chris today is about really living it, and also knowing that it's real for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Knowing that it's, you know, it's almost like practicing. You could say this is like going to the gym.
Yes,
it's the gym of consciousness.
you should maybe do that as a website.
Yeah, the gym of consciousness, and then put up all the points that we believe that you can get there. There you go. That's our next project. Okay, guys. Thank you very much. That's a talk I've been really looking forward to, and like Chris rightfully said, we could probably chinwag for another. Well, I'm sure we're going to do some more, and hopefully we'll record some more as well. As always, you know, love yourself and trust yourself, and you know, believe that you're not alone. Take care, guys.